Hello and welcome to another StarCraft 2 co-op video. Today we'll be analyzing some Raynor P0 build orders for bio openings. This video was requested by Primal Hive member Kimmel Pronger. Thanks for your support. If you want to make a request for a future video, check out the link in the description. Much of Raynor's early game involves surviving with his calldowns. Check out my Raynor P3 guide for calldown uses on each map. There is one word that summarizes Raynor P0's early game: greed. Be as greedy as you can without dying. When most players think of Raynor, they think of Little Aren. His P0 bio build order closely resembles the one from sc2coop.com. The main thing is that he gets 6 CCs before building an army. This is Xia Yu, a high-level player in the Chinese server. He plays all commanders and he made a guide for Raynor on all maps. Unfortunately, his build orders differ from game to game. The most noticeable difference is that he gets racks before first depot. This way he can get his OC earlier. Let's look at both players' openings on missed opportunities. Just looking at this, they don't look that different. So let's look at the specifics. Since Xia Yu makes his OC first, he starts his mule economy much sooner. Assuming both players mule as soon as they have 50 energy, they will even out at around the 10th mule. At 815, Little Aren has 69 supply. In another run on the same map, he had 84. This is the first real fight, so nobody really lost any units before this. After that, people start losing units and it's hard to compare, so 815 was chosen. Xia Yu only has 44 supply, but he has 3 more command centers as well as more barracks. That could have been an extra 36 supply of marines, so both builds are about the same in that regard. Because Xia Yu has more OCs, he maxes out a bit sooner than Little Aren. His macro might have slipped a bit at around 1230 though. Both players lost a few units, so the counts aren't exact, but their losses were minimal. In the late game, they have about the same number of production structures and OCs. Both had 2 starports because they were up against air enemies. I assumed that those would be barracks instead against a different comp. Being greedy is easy when you don't get attacked before your Duskwings are online. But what if you have to defend an early first wave? Here is Little Aren's build on Void Launch. Everything is about the same except that he makes a bunker at around 230 and makes 4 marines. Xia Yu makes his bunker a little early, which is a bit too early in my opinion. He only makes 3 marines. For RTK, you have to make an early bunker to survive. Little Aren makes a bunker at around 150. He also starts his Expo CC at around 310, so he can start mining from the natural at around 510. Xia Yu again makes his bunker really early and his marines don't attack the rocks before 2 minutes. If he does, he could probably get his Expo running even sooner than 520. Are you still following, or are you overwhelmed by all these different build orders? After watching multiple build orders by these 2 high-level players, I have made a list of guiding principles to follow. It's easier to follow these principles than to remember build orders. I would still remember build orders up until 4 minutes though. Guiding principles. 1. Make a bunker 1 minute before the first wave arrives, not the time that they spawn, the time that they get to your base. You should know the earliest time that enemies can reach your base. If you don't want to bother, just assume it's 3:30 for missed opportunities, void launch, and void thrashing, and 3:45 for temple. Make 2 refineries when you have 18 SCVs on minerals. This way, you will still have 14 on minerals after the refineries are saturated. You will make about 2 more SCVs during the time the refineries are being built. Make 2 E-bays and a factory when you have 20 SCVs on minerals after saturating your 2 gases. This ensures that your armory will be on time for +2, and you will still have more than 14 workers on minerals. If you're on a map with rocks, you can rally all your command centers to the expo at this time and start sending them there. 4. Make a 3rd gas at the expo after you have 11 SCVs on minerals at the expo. This ensures that you have 2 workers on each patch. If there are 6 patches, make the gas after you have 13 SCVs on minerals. All of these assume you pull workers off minerals to build these structures. 5. Make the 4th gas only if you're going to add mech later. If you're going pure bio, you won't need that gas. 6. Make up to 7 Raxes 90 seconds before you need an army. This differs from map to map. You will hold off the early game with your calldowns, but there will be a point when your Duskwings can't do everything. If you want to transition into mech, make 2 to 3 factories instead of massing racks. If you're going bio with vultures, you can just use the single factory you built earlier. If you're gonna make starports for Vikings, add them in the mid-game. 8. If you aren't massing bio or making vultures, you don't need to mass orbitals. You might want to mass tanks or banshees. In that case, you should still have 3 OCs, but you don't need 8. Lastly, on maps with contested expos, use the same build order. The difference is that you clear your expo with Duskwings or Hyperion and fly a CC over. Since we're already talking about bio, let's talk about P1. I personally prefer P1 over P0 because I don't like fragile marines. This example was a build order I used on lock and load, but I'm no Raynor expert, so let's see what others have done. Little Arin's build orders for P1 look like this. Interestingly, he didn't make an early CC on lock and load because he wanted to speedrun it, but he made an early CC on minor evacuation despite not being able to expand for a while. Next we have Super Marine. He pretty much only plays P1 Raynor, so if you want a good P1 build order, try these. But as you can see here, he doesn't even have a consistent build order, and I don't really think it matters. The difference between P0 and P1 is that you don't need to mass CCs, so you can get upgrades and army sooner. This means you need to get gas sooner. You only need about 5 Raxes. I like to build 7, but 5 seems enough for a 2-base mule-less economy. But just like with P0, you want to use your cooldowns to get through the early game. You should add mech units whether you're using P0 or P1 against certain comps. Tanks are good against splash damage units like High Templars, Explosive Threats Banelings, and Ravaging Infestation, the Infestors. Add Vikings against air comps because Vikings have AoE. Add Banshees against Reavers so the Banshees can keep attacking even if you lose some bile. And now for some miscellaneous questions. What factors play into the decision of having more frequent Duskwings or more frequent Hyperion, the masteries? Hyperion is too good to not max out all the time. Lil Arin uses Dusk masteries though, so you can ask him, I suppose. He can explain his reasoning. I use Duskwings mastery when there's aggressive deployment, void rifts, and on certain maps. See the early game guide for P3 for more details. What is your opinion on how mastery points should be split between orbital drop buffs and faster research time? I always put 30 points in cheaper research. The drop pod buff only lasts 30 seconds and you're not going to be fighting all the time, so that buff is likely to be wasted. Artanis is different because he can store multiple charges and warp all of those units in instantly. I suppose you can plan ahead, but now you have something extra to take into consideration: the location where the units drop. The new ones have to be behind existing ones or else they can't fully utilize the buff before dying. Either way, cheaper research makes all the tech lab and eBay upgrades cheaper. That's basically a lot of extra marines for free. What are some other common build order mistakes with Raynor that wasn't already mentioned in your video, and what do I do to avoid them? I don't really know what mistakes you can really make in regards to build order if you're mainly relying on cooldowns to get through the early game. If your eBays are a bit slower, it doesn't really matter. I suppose one mistake is making too many orbitals. You don't really need more than 8, and you should definitely stop at 10. So that also answers this next question. You make about 8 before you start making an army, and if you have some downtime in the mid game, you can make 2 more. Or you can just stop thinking about OCs and focus on your army from then on. Why would I want to choose P1 when there's no increased mineral income from mules to replace my bile forces quickly? I suppose this is mostly a skill issue. With P1, there's less dodging AoE since you can tank a few hits. Also, there's less mule macros so you can focus on your army. The early to mid game is stronger because when you first need your army, it'll be stronger than P0's army at that same point in the game. There's also less screen switching. If you're dealing with a mutator like going nuclear, you don't have to look back at your base to drop mules. You don't have to worry about that. You can just focus on your army the whole time. P1's playstyle is also similar to other commanders, where you just consistently produce units and you try not to lose them. You don't have to switch to a very different playstyle. P1 also stomps certain comps better than P0, but that's kind of a win more. And that's it for this lesson. Stay tuned for part 2 when I go over early game mech openings. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss it. Thanks to all the members who are supporting me. If you would like to join the squad, check out the link in the description. And while you're here, check out the build order guide for mechs. See you there.